one's there just yet. Let me just quickly find it on here. Oh, really? Oh, hey, Abby, 2 people. Oh, here we go.
Here be 2 people.
There you go, darling. Welcome, everyone. Merry Christmas or festive season or just Saturday because you don't celebrate it. And welcome. We've had a few little offerings of topics to go through. So I'll start with those and then we'll take it from there and see what happens. So if anyone wants to offer anything, they can either do it in the chat. Hey, Space Princess, hey. Or you can DM me on Instagram. Papa's dealing with all of the stuff. If you want it to be private, just DM me instead of put it there, and then I'll keep you anonymized and we'll just use it as, and not use it, we'll feature it.
Send a pigeon.
Yeah. So, hello.
Merry Christmas, Space Princess.
Welcome. So, hello. Firstly, from our last session, I did a little bit more research because we had someone wanting to do a bit about Black Lives Matter, and I felt a bit under able to do that for them. So, and also had this one particular thing where I really didn't understand how the N-word was used in songs and lyrics and everything. And so I did a whole load of research, watched a whole load of different programs, a couple in particular that gave me a really good insight into the reasoning and the different ways in which it would be used, and so it can change a dynamic of a sentence or the song or the way in which they're using it. So it's a really powerful terminology. There was 2 programs on David Letterman. In fact, his whole series, I don't need to introduce them or something. I need not introduce the next guest, something like that, by David Letterman. And Kanye West was on it, and he talked great, but in particular, Jay-Z talked amazing on it. And then they had this other lady as well. The whole thing is, just go and watch it. It just really helps you understand a few things that are just a bit fearful to talk about. And Jay-Z put it in such a great way that was like, oh, I really get that now. And now when I'm going to listen to your lyrics again, I'm not going to be scared of them. I'm going to find the intent of what that word is and how you're trying to use it and everything you're trying to express. So it was just really powerful for me, and it made me not fear getting it wrong so much, because I can see how intricate the meaning is and how it would be featured or used or framed in different ways so it can be understood in the terms of the song. So anyway, go and check it out. It's really cool. So that sort of somewhat looked at, and dedicate yourself to go and look at those programs because they're amazing. There was also a woman, Muslim lady. Oh, she's got a really intricate name which I won't even try and pronounce, but she was shot, and then she goes and helps young girls in the Muslim community sort of find themselves beyond an indoctrination, but also to still have their relationship with God and their religion. And it's just really powerful stuff. Just go and watch it. It's really cool. I don't do it justice. Go and watch it itself because it's really worth a watch. So we've got 3 topics to start with. I'm going to start with thoughts on organizing your own thoughts with intentions. So trying to intentionalize either scattered thoughts or intrusive intrusive thinking or obsessive compulsive thinking, so that you can, or going into a bipolar manic episode where you're overthinking, over rationalizing or intellectualizing, so that you sort of can depersonalize from your body when you get to that state, because you're so trapped in your head, and your head is going on so many different directions that quite often aren't even attached to you. You can lose all feeling in your body. You're not attached to it at all, so you can get less able to feel your stomach or to feel your bladder or to feel tired or whatever. So it can really detach yourself. So organizing your thoughts into a process, especially when you have a personality or a mood disorder, that can make it a little bit, what's going on? And you can, end up talking to God in a good way or talking to God in a bad way. And it can be, a bit up and down. So finding a way to create a process or protocol that engages your safety mechanisms. And they've asked, is it a real process? Now, I've done a little bit of research on this, and there's a couple of things. Maeve's method, MAEVE''S method. If you could write that in there for me, that'd be really cool. MAEVE''S method.
MAEVE''S.
Well, with apostrophe, it's hers. So you could have the apostrophe method. And that's about getting your emotion to feeling and a boundary plan of intention. So you're going...
Maeve's method.
Maeve, yeah. I think it's pronounced Maeve's, but whatever.
Maeve's. Like that?
Yeah. Sorry, I've gone off my train of thought.
Maeve's method.
Right, shh. Maeve's method. Yes, so you are able to have your emotion and be able to process it. So being in your body is the key to that. So staying in your head actually gets in the way of you connecting with your body and getting to a feeling, which is an emotion that's understood that you can then explain to other and get some intention from. Can't happen unless you attach to the emotion. So quite often people will block their emotion or feel embarrassed of it, or just be depersonalized from it, and just generally, or not have the permission to have an emotion because they're not valid enough, or override their emotion with some kind of invalidity. So if they have no attachment to that, they can go off into a whole different, not even them process, any old person, any other fuckers, whatever, and run miles and miles down the road away from themselves because they didn't first check with their own emotion. So that Maeve's method allows you to, it's called felt sense, get in touch with your actual body so that you can feel what is going on in my body right now. How am I actually emoting? Then you can have it and let it process, and it might be with shaking or sweating or screaming or crying or tiredness or whatever. Or once you've done all those and you've allowed your body to process that emotion, you can then come to the understanding of the feeling, which is the processed connection with what's just gone on for you. So what triggered it? Why has this happened? What are my needs? What are my boundaries? What do I need to communicate? How do I look after this? Do I need to do any research and gain any more education to look after this? And the key to it is to try and keep your body attached to your brain. Last time we did a bit on this as well, but I am still working on this neuroscience therapy bubble. But honestly, every time I try and record it, I get so far and then I get interrupted or distracted, and I can't quite get it to what it needs to be. So it's in the works. But in the meantime, it's about doing this left-right stimulation. So you're bringing on both sides of your body so that all of your brain comes on, your amygdala, your limbic, and your prefrontal cortex, which attaches to your body, your nervous system, and then you stay in your body within your own emotion, attaching to your own feeling, being able to then communicate it to another instead of detaching, going off in your headspace with whatever you find in the bloody atmosphere, going 3,000 miles away with yourself and come back with all sorts of things that you found from a distant planet saying, well, this must be true, when actually it's not attached to you whatsoever. So that left-right processing can either be done audio. If you can get earphones that will isolate, you can get specific things on YouTube or whatever where they will just transfer a noise from left to right, and that's enough to bring on your left-right, your hearing mechanism left-right. Or you can do a visual one. I can't do the visual one because it stimulates my eye sensitivity and then I get vertigo, but you can go on YouTube again and you can really slow it down. So slow is to let go, quick is to put in. You're processing something, but if you're trying to let go of something, you don't want it to process and implant in your body, you need to let it go, so you need to go slow. So you can watch those left and right, and I wouldn't do that on your own. I'll do a lot of research before you go into all that sort of stuff. But also you can hold these things that go from left and right in like a buzzing, but you can actually just do it yourself. So just squeezing. So my papa always says to me when I'm having like a faint thing or whatever, the first thing he says is clench your fists left and right, clench your fists, and it really brings your amygdala soothing, because your limbic system, which is your attachment, says, oh, Papa's here, someone who cares is looking after me. And then your cognitive system says, oh, we're not having that thing that it thinks it's doing. We're having a PTSD, it's not real. And this left-right thinking keeps my whole brain online, so that it doesn't narrow down to just an amygdala that's really scared and then's going to have a seizure or faint or do whatever. So keeping that whole brain in line so that you can keep your head attached to your body allows you to go on a process that will be well-being. And the way that you can focus that is by this maze method, which is all to do with your emotion, feeling, intent, or another thing is called mind mapping, where you I've got one, but I don't think I've got it up here, where you draw a picture. It's sort of like it doesn't matter how you have it, like a central thing, and then you might do other things off it, or you just it's not really got a method to it. It depends on how you sort of like journaling.
It's like writing down your brainstorm.
Exactly, brainstorming, perfect.
So you start off with whatever the subject is in the middle, and then you bring something from that, bring a line off it.
And you develop it in different ways.
Yeah.
And there can be different parts.
Yes. Yeah.
But you could also, you don't have to do it like that. You might be a person that does it in lists or compartments, or one's a drawing, or it might be like organized like a mall, a shopping center. You know, when you go to the thing and it's got these shops there. Yeah, like it depends on your brain. So you've got to find the way that your mind map works. But my mind map was to pick these. I'd had some EMDR, eye movement desensitization reuptake. It's like a type of therapy to soothe my amygdala. And she had used these like animal figures, and you had to represent different parts of yourself, and then you can try and locate the conditions of worth and the configurations of self. So that's how to look after, how they might be triggered, but also express what part of you they are, and get that reconfigured of your fullest self, so that you're gathering all these parts of you together. And so my mind map was a drawing of all these different monikers that I'd chosen. And she said it's very unusual that someone would choose all fairy tale type things, or unreal type creatures. Most people choose particular animals and things like that. So it was quite unusual that I would be so like, whoa, fanciful, and butterflies and fairies and God knows, not butterflies, fairies and dragons and things like that. So that my mind map had all of those, and then each one had their character and their age and their triggers and all this different stuff, so that you could see I could see a picture of myself. So other people have it in different ways. So don't get stuck on the protocol. Just give yourself a big piece of paper, a few big pieces of paper, and like keep trying things out until you find the way that's like, oh no, this works for me, because now I can see myself. And so to make it a positive well-being protocol, you have to locate the conditions of worth and triggers, so that you're not feeding into either a shame cycle or a negative condition of worth. So you're underpinning something that someone told you that actually has nothing to do with you. That's a horrible thing that they told you, and actually that's more about them, but you've continued that idea of self because you keep underlining it with either sacrificial behavior or judgmental behavior on yourself. So you're either putting yourself to one side for the idea of someone else's ideal of you, or you're overriding yourself I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, mind maps. You go on a journey to create a protocol that makes sense to well-being. So you locate your conditions of worth. How do I look after them? What triggers them? What can I gift others that says, this is mine to look after? I can't change the world, but I can look after my triggers better. So these are the things that are helpful, and these are the things that are unhelpful. And I'd really love you to be part of the team, but I can understand that sometimes you can't be, because you're a human being too. And then you can start making like a trigger plan that works for both people, so that everyone's looked after. You're right, baby.
Someone's got a question for you. They want to ask, can they ask you a fashion question?
I don't know how well I'm going to do with that, but yeah. I'm a bit weirdo and proud, so I don't know. Don't know how well I can tell you on fashion. Does it say fashion question? No, yeah, they want to know a fashion question. Okay, go.
Kareem.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you please show us how you tie your shirt or sweater around your waist style by sleeves? What? I don't know what
I would literally just tie it around my waist, put a knot in. Or sometimes
no, you do a double knot.
No, I don't. I would hook the sleeve. I'll show you actually, because this is a cool trick. Because then you don't stretch your arms too much. So you just fold it slightly, tie it round, and then instead of double knotting, you just put an extra thing like that, and then it'll stay there. But I don't need a jumper on right now because it's actually really warm in this room for once. It's usually an absolute icebox in here, but anyway. So mind maps, just try and just go on a little journey. Start with lists, start with like little blocks, and try and sort of separate yourself out a bit. And it might be your characteristics, it might be your roles, what you have to do in a day, what your triggers are, what your configurations are. That's like who you feel you are. And like quite often it can be like, I feel like I'm a Gemini, I feel like I'm a creative, I feel like I'm a weirdo and proud, I feel like I'm like all sorts of different parts of myself in the dissociative group, but also characteristics of who I am. So once you can start writing things down, you can then build on them, because then you'll think of another scheme or a layer that you'll think, oh wait, so how does everyone else in this role system feel? Because this part of me would hate that, but that bit would love it, and this bit would just need it only on a whatever. Yeah, and then you can just gradually build up this idea of self, so that when you're lost, you have something to refer to, and you can sort of go on a process of becoming self again, instead of getting lost to an abject ideal, or a projected perfection, or a trigger PTSD response to someone else's not behavior, but there you are triggering to it anyway. They haven't meant to, and if you had sat down and logically unpack it, you wouldn't have had a trigger, but for some reason something has tweaked in your mind and you're off on this thing. If you can put in a buffer zone that just creates a place that says, here I am, and here actually are the people that are really precious in my life, that I trust, so that in that moment where I might be triggering from them, I can remember, oh no, yeah, I do get triggered by some things. Or I can get triggered at certain times of the month, or I can get triggered by certain themes of things. Like, you know, if your partner works away, you might find the days leading up really stressful. But once they're gone and everything's in its routine and blah, 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 and when they're coming home, it's all great. But sometimes it's like certain moments that just require a mind map to come back to self and remember everyone who's in it, so that you can navigate a stressful moment. And the reason that you can't at the time, and this is why all these things are good, this left-right thing and this mind mapping, is because when you're getting stressed, your brain gradually starts switching off, and you are only left with your amygdala, which doesn't think at all. It just really feels really fucking strongly. It's either safe or it isn't. And if it's not, then it's going to like do all sorts of weird things. And if it's had 0 to 6 trauma, then it's going to have lots of weird things it can do, because it will have had training during the time when the amygdala part of the brain is being developed. It will have been trained to become a very good amygdala, which quite often doesn't give you skills for adulthood. It just gives you skills for that moment. And also then it can steal from the next part, especially if your trauma continues between 6 and 12 as well, because then your limbic system, this middle part that then develops between 6 and 12, and it's all to do with belonging, connectivity, and creating a self with other, and knowing that world doesn't revolve around you, and sort of understanding some of the social constructs and going to school and all those things. If that system is then thwarted because you didn't belong at home, or you didn't get care or justice for your infantile trauma, or you did get bullied at school or ostracized or pushed away, and then you get into your sort of 13 to 26, your prefrontal cortex true development, where you're getting all your skills, your language, your learning, your abilities, your historic understanding, and the way to be skillfully navigating in your life, because you've got as you get older, you get more what's that word? You get older and you get more wise, but I can't think of the word. Experience is the word. So that experience comes on. But if you've got an overstimulated amygdala, which you had infantile trauma, and you've got a understimulated or scared limbic system, your ability to switch on your prefrontal cortex or go to school and learn is already thwarted, because these two things are getting in the way. And instead of developing this in a really great way, these two things are fighting with each other to stay safe and belong, whilst we try and learn with this shriveled up like prefrontal cortex. It's like, what, guys? I don't know. So 0 to 26, your like growth of your brain and what happens in those stages is really important on how you're going to be an adult and adulting, and what happens in your adult life, and how your amygdala responds to stress, and how you and another's amygdala will then interweave, and how you would however that happens with two unique people, all those things. And if you haven't got a strong limbic system, it means you haven't got those deep known rights to communicate. I've got human rights. This is my trigger. These are the things that could take care. These are the things that aren't helpful. You have less ability to say those things, to think those things, to know that you're allowed them too. It's harder for you because you haven't had that training at that time. So depending on your life experience and history, depends on how many things you've got to look after, and the interweave of how they work with each other. And like, I've done this whole thing, I don't know whether you can see that, this whole thing that's like, I'm going to do it in this therapy bubble, but it links lots of different genres in like layers, and lets you understand the three parts and how the body reacts to it and responds to it, and how you can get better relationship with it, and also how it links with dom sub, and that somatic regulation, that brain body regulation. So anyway, it's all really interesting. I'll do a therapy bubble because probably everyone's like, oh, dry. So I'll go on to the next thing. So mind mapping, yeah, get on with it, move on. Mind mapping, Maeve's therapy, Maeve's method. Try to intentionalize your random thoughts, your intrusive thoughts. And if they are truly intrusive thoughts, then you just capture them and say, oh, look at me doing my red flag. My red flag is coming up. I must be stressed about something because I'm thinking random intrusive thoughts. I don't need to listen to them, take them on a picnic, go for a 25-mile drive to the edge of the fucking earth. I need to just capture them, bin them, look at what's stressing me, put the red flag down, say thank you very much for telling me, and I will respond. Whereas if you don't respond, you start seeing all sorts of flags, the thing get louder, your nervous system starts going, oh, what the fuck, he's not listening to me anyway, will override you, and you'll end up with some really bad, I'm laughing, it's because I have it, because I ignored myself for so long. So, and it's naughty, don't do it. I don't know why I'm laughing, but like naughty. I'm really good to myself now though, aren't I? Much better. Yeah, I'm much better. So try and find the intention. And if the intention is, it's a condition of worth telling you you're invalid and you must be whatever, then you understand that this hasn't got an intention. It's an intrusive thought that I have to capture, and then look at why I'm intrusive thinking. Because the intrusive thinking hasn't got anything to say to you. It's just telling you you're stressed. So all you've got to do is look 2 weeks behind, 2 weeks ahead, and see what it is, that's just triggered your nervous system. And quite often it's vaguely connected to an archaic wound. And if you can locate that little connective thread, you can explain it to another so that they can understand, look, this triggers an old time wound. This is why it happens. I'm trying to work with it like this. This is how it could be helpful. Or you could be helpful with it. These are the things that are unhelpful. And then they'll start really thinking, oh God, yeah, of course. I'm not going to just like treat you one way because when you need it another way. That would be like, I don't know, it's like not respecting someone with autism and their specific needs, or any disability, like, or any need personally, just someone having a need and you go, no, like I can't imagine that. So if you can sort of tell yourself, I have the right to have needs, specific needs, and for them to be looked after, you'll get more likely to capture a intrusive thought that doesn't belong to you, that you don't deserve to go on this hiding to nothing, and that it's just a really good mechanism trying to tell you that you're a little bit stressed right now. Can you take care of yourself, please? But because you don't listen, it does it more, and you can't shoot the messenger. Yours is that, you know, if you've got intrusive thinking, that's the way it is, but you just got to hear it as a flag before you hear it as some kind of journey you've got to go on. So the next topic that was given was ASD, socializing struggles, from
ASD stuff, right?
autism spectrum disorder, and they don't separate out like Asperger's from it now. It's all sort of in one thing, and there's lots of different other. You could do ASD in the middle, and there'd be like loads of different branches of it, and there's like 164 times 164 different types of interweave that someone can have in the spectrum of autism. So you think you know what autism is, and you don't. And also it has to be said that we only know really male autism because that's all that we've studied so far, and there's only a very few beginning female research based stuff coming through. So they're just starting to realize that women are different and they present differently autistically, so we better start like having a thing that they can check themselves again, instead of seeing how boy they are, autistically boy they are. And even that doesn't take into account the age sliding dysphoria, the gender dysphoria, the fact that it can be I always forget this one, non-binary, so, and also not static. So that ability to sort of work with self as a transitioning, a forever transitioning person, and just waking up in the day and being allowed to say, I feel mostly female today, or the following day feeling I feel mostly male, or feeling I agendered, I don't feel a gender today. And then also on the spectrum of sexuality, and that being able to then be safe in how it looks, instead of the problem is with autism is that neurotypical standards want to get it so that this is what you are, when actually that might be what I am on a Wednesday. Like, stop trying to narrow me down and start trying to understand how it is for me. And so once you're able to sort of really meet the flexibility and the fluidity and the changeability of it, you're then able to meet a unique person within it, and how they need to be supported in it, and how they need to be celebrated in it, and what could help that meeting each day, or understanding what the needs are of the day is, and also adulting and looking after their child part and that little space, and also kinks, lots and lots of kinks, because there's just such fluidity and a different relationship quite often with sex and intimacy, and just such variety and variation that to sort of narrow it down is, well, it's just imbecilic. So getting on to the actual point, socializing struggles. So the first thing, and I counsel a lot of people on the autism spectrum, and the first thing is that it's the self-identification and that right to say, I'm neuroatypical. And it takes a while for a person to feel like they're allowed to say that. And it's really hard and arduous to get a statement. And then also, quite often, not a good thing to your career or to your health insurance and all of these other things, and it's actually very stressful to go through, and you have to go through days of like questions and different like testings, and it's like really arduous.
Evaluation.
Yeah, evaluation after evaluation with people that generally aren't good personably. They're very good at their job and they're very passionate about it and they're the perfect person to do it, but they're not terribly good at making you feel comfortable and making you feel welcomed, and like quite often it's quite sort of not a good what do they call it, like doctors bedside manner. It's a bit brusque and we're getting a job done, so it can feel really intimidating as well. So quite often people don't want to put themselves through that, and why should they, for a label that can stigmatize, even nowadays when it shouldn't be. I mean, there's specific laws against it, but still. So getting to that point where you can actually say, I self-identify, particularly for females, but also for men who say, you know, well, I haven't been statemented. I don't want to go through that. I've looked at the list, and yeah, I can self-identify, but I wouldn't ever want to, like, you know, self-diagnose. And for me and person-centered counselors, it's say that self-identification, one's knowledge of self, and that education of self, and that you are the educated party on being yourself. You are qualified. You are expert at being you. You're the only one. And you're the one that knows. And if you can get that relationship between your head and your body, your heart and your soul, and your knowledge of self and how you configure and all your conditions of worth and you can get a better understanding of you and relate it to someone else. No one on the outside of you has a better knowledge of yourself. So sometimes it is a block in you being allowed to have that knowledge, or you validating that knowledge, or you saying, oh, well, someone else has to tell me the knowledge of myself because I couldn't possibly be qualified to do that, and you undermine your right to, depending on what you've learned in your 26 years of building your brain and its structures and how it is placed in the world by other people. So if you're on the autism spectrum and you have other conditions that add to the fact that socializing is difficult, and you don't give yourself the right to have any of those things, that will really block. So the first thing is to self-acknowledge and to just find a statement that you feel comfortable with. A neuroatypical is a really broad umbrella. Dyslexia is under there, like all sorts of things are under there. So most of us are neuroatypical, if we like want to look at it like that. And you can find a statement that says, you know, this is how I can better include myself or be included or give it a try, but I come with these difficulties, or don't take it personally. It's not me, it's my, well, I say it's not me, it's my PTSD, but it's not me, it's my ASD, or it's a thing that happens to me, or it's an anxiety, or it's one of my symptoms, or it's a part of who and how I am that I'm trying to practice with other, and without that practice you don't get experience, so you never build up that confidence. And confidence is just repetition of a thing that you have gained from in some positive way. Well, you can also have bad experience. You know, your amygdala is a perfect example of that. It's if you have a whole load of childhood trauma, it will get really good at bad experience, and then in your adulthood will be really annoying to live with because it overrides stuff on a whim that in adult life your logic brain would be able to clearly see it. Just, you don't need to react like this, but your amygdala 0 to 6 brain is going, oh God, it's a fire, just faint, don't worry, have a wee as well, I don't know. So it depends how your brain's gone. So if you have lots of things getting in the way, giving them voice, giving them right to voice, and finding statements that you feel comfortable. And it might be like, I really like the beginning of the night. I like the quiet drinks, but I don't want the rest. And when everyone's like, come out, it makes me think I won't go at all because I can't do the no bit. But if you just let me come to the beginning bit, I'd have a really good time. I get to practice. And then maybe next year I might come to the middle bit. once and see how I feel. So you gradually socialize in a way that makes sense to your body, so it's not getting overridden into its amygdala and you shrink back. And if you've got autism as well, if you shrink back and you're autistic, you're like desiccated. So why would you try really hard work stuff like things you find fearful, or socializing, or stuff that challenges that? So it's about finding the communication in a way that allows you to challenge it in bite-sized chunks that others don't stress on. They support the challenge, but they don't force the growth. And if you create a fertile environment, it will grow. And part of that growing is to accept that it looks like mud for 6 weeks, sometimes 3 months. So just accepting that, stop poking it around. If you keep poking it around, you're going to destroy the seeds and it's never going to grow. If you just accept that it looks like mud for 6 to 12 weeks, and then it starts growing, and then they're just like tiny little saps that we could still just tread on and destroy. But at some point, they'll become something that could actually feed you or nourish you or shelter you, or you could put a swing on and play on. So gift it the time to grow, but you've got to create the space in which it can grow, and you have to gift it an environment to grow. And the person-centered environment is congruence, positive, unconditional positive regard, that's unconditional kindness, and empathy. Congruence is that truth, honoring, witnessing, and it's not about blowing smoke up your ass or avoiding things or not acknowledging stuff. It's about being transparent, immediacy, holding the thing and honoring it, and empathy. And a lot of people misunderstand empathy, and there's levels of empathy. I've got a whole chapter in my book on empathy because it's so complex, and people think sympathy is empathy. But actually, to have empathy, you have to have said something that completely reflects how another person is feeling from their perspective, unattached to anything that you feel, that you've explained to them, that they have then gone, that's exactly what it is. Then you have achieved empathy. If you haven't talked to someone about your idea of how they feel, then you haven't achieved empathy. You have to actually talk to someone to achieve empathy, and they have to then reflect to you that you've got it correct. So it's a skill, and you have to put yourself to one side and your perspective to one side so that you can see someone else in their world and try and affect it positively with them. And if you can notice that, and you can go on that journey yourself, you can notice it in others, and you will then be able to create like a pathway or a protocol, or like, hey, I used to struggle with this too. I've noticed I've just noticed, and tell me if I'm wrong, but are you struggling with this? Because I used to do that too. And they'll probably be like, oh my God, yeah, how did you know? Oh, well, I noticed this and this, and these bodily cues and rah, rah, rah. And then you're like talking about it, and you're transcending, because you've gone the practice of safely repeating the knowledge of self in an environment that receives it in a way that makes sense to it as it grows. And then you do grow. And then you get to the point where you can go, oh, I remember that stage. Let me go and help, because they keep trying to find the plants and they're not letting the mud just be for a minute. And once they know that, they'll leave the mud alone. And then you can go and help someone else. And it feels really good to sort of recognize in other that they were stuck where you were, and that you could just give them that pivotal key that allows them to just grow their space too. And it's a really wonderful thing. And that's what socializing is. That's belonging, that's community, that's positive transference, it's cohabiting, it's all of those things. So struggles with socializing and ASD, try and find different pools to dip into. With my transgender clients, I always say try and look in lots of different pools. There's a lot of cis women supporting trans women supporting trans women, trans groups with trans women and trans men, your religious group, a hobby, pick up a hobby again and just go and be there, transitioning and creating that space to say, I'm a trans woman in transition and I don't have to pass for you. and I don't owe you any explanations or monologues of my life. I'm allowed to be a person that's finding myself, and this is the transition of it, and it looks like this, and I'm allowed to go through puberty and have that space honored. And there's lots of different pools that you can go and swim in and find community that feels a bit different. And when you're working, becoming woman and your female self, to get into the prison of being a woman again, like cis women are trying to break out of that prison, let alone trans women being pushed into it because they've got to pass before they are honored as being a trans woman or a woman, just underline full stop. Gifting that space to become itself, and also prize that I am woman, but I'm also trans woman. And that's a great, amazing thing. And I'm going on this amazing journey, and join me or be boundaried, and join me in celebration and support, and gift me ideas and whatever. So yeah, have a breath. Let me have a drink.
Can I read out a few comments? Do it, baby. So Michael Raptors says, I've got ADHD, so being little actually helps me deal with it, because it gives me a moment where I'm allowed to relax and trying to be normal.
Yeah. And all that cognitive space, it puts you into body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Space Princess said, I seem to rely on others to define me. It's definitely a struggle because I lose a sense of self, and then I have to be alone for a long time to rediscover myself again.
That engulfment where you get lost in the ideal someone has of you, it narrows you down to a role. If you become someone's girlfriend or boyfriend, or all you are is mother, or all you are is worker, or all you are is woman, or all you are is good girl or good boy, to someone or something, or a religious dogma, then you're narrowing down who you are as human being and self and character and spectrum, and who I am in the afternoon from the evening. And depending on who walks in the room depends on who comes out, because you know your intimate sexuality parts, well, depending on whether you're in a poly relationship, will come out with a specific personal set of people. Not all people are friends or children or whatever. Like, who you are is lots of different people. When you're narrowed down, or you're especially narrowed down by an other's ideal of you, I want this kind of girlfriend, this is the kind of wife I need, this is the kind of woman you should be a good girl, then you're sacrificing your needs, your wants, your celebrations, your fantasies, your ability to speak freely, your ability to express yourself, your ability to have opinion and have them valued. We actually really enjoyed going through Brexit, because we had two different ends of our feelings, and we were able to talk at the dinner table because our children were quite interested in it. The whole sort of spectrum of it, because we really respected the whole spectrum of feelings, and they were able to have like a really balanced sort of talk about it. And so having to narrow down your family or your environment to one person's ideal gets rid of the color and the difference and the respect and the celebration of two people and their like uniqueness. So if you're with someone that needs to narrow you down, then you're not a someone, you're a something, and now you're being molded into their thing, and then you'll be bad thing whenever you don't like that. So you are going further and further into a shame cycle that's being projected upon you, and that's different from like BDSM if you're contracting that space, or like a precious, if you are someone's precious, and you belong with someone, that kind of precious objectification is wonderful. But if you are being narrowed down, then that requires a relationship with self. Try and sort of think, at the moment we can't really date anyway, look at the world, what the world's doing, we can't really get together, so I'll use this time to have a real relationship with myself and actually fall in love with me, so that I can find a partner that I would really like. And then you can go on journeys with your sexuality and your fantasy and your own body, and you can find your own arousal again. You can find your needs, you can find your likes, you can find your humor, you can, you know, find your character, you can find your hobbies again, all those things that you sacrificed because, oh, well, it's your way then. Or, oh, well, you like them scrambled. Oh, well, we'll just have them scrambled from now on. Oh, you don't like mushrooms. We'll never have mushrooms again. Like, you have to try and keep your sense of self within that thing. And if someone doesn't celebrate that, then they're not choosing you, they're abusing you. So whoever that was, I've forgotten the name. Names just flutter out of me, even my children's. Go on a journey of self. Read my book if you like. Send me an email. I send it out for free by e-copy, or you can buy it on a paperback or Kindle version. It takes you on a journey of becoming yourself, authenticating your roles, creating genuine relationships that pivot around a genuine reflection of you and authentication of you, and then you know, putting it out into your life. So it really takes you on a process of doing that. If you fancy, like, it is process, so it's not like an easy read, but I've written it like a conversational thing, so it's not a hard read, but it's not like fiction where it's just, well, even that I find hard to read. But anyway,
let me read them more.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So Mike Raptor said, for me, I want to be a woman, not a trans woman.
Yeah.
But I understand why others might find the trans label more important than it is to be.
Well, Microraptor, what I'm saying is, oh, sorry.
And then they said, I'd never feel ashamed over being a trans woman. To me, trans is like describing someone as a tall woman. It might be relevant in some situations, but not different in any important ways to short women.
Yeah, totally agree. So what I'm saying by celebrating and holding and honoring and witnessing I am a trans woman is saying that you have rights, that you have needs, that you have specific things that are located just for you, that need looking after and respecting and honoring. And if you give that equal, and as you say, you haven't got any shame to it, so that there is, it sounds like, a belonging to the transition of it without an undermining of its feeling within you, its destination, which is woman, that just knowledge and connection with, although I'm on a transition, I've always felt this way, this outside thing, and the way that my body is responding to it because it was born male or whatever, because there's a range of things that can be physically or genetically occur that can create a gender dysphoric. So whatever's going on in that body that has fought with its ability to be fully cis female, born fully cis female, are the things that need respecting and honoring and have needs and requirements, and without stating them, they can be sort of shoved or like delegitimized, or then unconsciously become shamed because I need to be this, and that even isn't a destination, because woman, it's just a word, and most women don't want to be narrowed down to woman. So even that, it's like honoring self. So who am I as a woman? So yeah, get in there. Like, I'm not getting there because you're already there. You're getting your outside to look, to feel like you're inside or whatever. And actually even that can be very different for different people. Some people can be quite happy with the body they're in as long as they've got to the place where they are able to live how they feel, and they don't need or want to go through any operations. Other people need all the operations. They need to feel as feminized as possible so that they can live their best life. And then there's a whole range in between. I won't go through all of them. But so honoring that individuality rather than getting on with passing or doing the woman thing, it just dishonors like the biggest picture of like being self, and actually honoring that transition and honoring how it feels to be you, and that journey and all the things that need looking after. So I'm not like,
they said they agree with that.
Oh, fantastic! Because I was just about to say I might not be speaking well on it. I'm still sort of studying a lot on it, but yeah.
Shy Baby Girl says, I've been alone for a long time now, and it's getting both easy and hard as time goes by.
Yeah. It's like you can find it's in that repetition. And if you're in kindness, so you're repeating loneliness, sadness, being alone in kindness, you will get better at it, because actually you can have second best. And when you treat yourself kindly in loneliness, you make that nest a little bit easier to live with and live in. And also you prize saying yes, or invitations, or putting yourself out there, or keep that open window, if not open door or cracked door, or keep sending out messages that say, hey, friendship, hey, whoever, like, whatever, come and join me. So that sort of repetition in that environment that says, look, I can't change things right now, and like, especially right now, because even people who have got friends, it's like fucking impossible to meet up. So especially right now, if I can create an environment that makes it safe to be lonely, that I'm allowed to feel lonely, and what does that look like to care for that? And also, how do I look after it in ways that gift it something that would make it feel less lonely? And that might be a range of different things, like, you know, cooking yourself a from scratch meal once a week, or having a real special bath time with one of your movies on, or like doing a sleepover and getting all your bears and stuff out, or ordering yourself one of those gift boxes to open, like a surprise one. Keep up with all of your efforts online, because they pay off, and that those friendships grow, because it's hard to, I'm finding it especially hard to make friendship online, because of all the names, and everyone has different names on all the different things, and they also have several things as well in general. So I'm like, oh, that looks like, oh, it is that person, oh, they've got 3, okay, that's fine, now I know, that's fine. And it's hard to sort of, you know, remember all those things. But putting yourself out there with your one, and if this is shy, is this shy baby girl?
Yeah.
Let me see her thing. Yes, you keep your same name, your same little profile picture. You're very reliable, resourceful, and you are, what's the word, consistent, and it builds up. People see you as a person that like is there and is trustworthy and can be relied upon. And even though online things aren't as good as in person, they are second best though, and like those things are genuinely growing, and little letters are getting sent, and little parcels are getting sent, and communities are growing, and that ability to just DM someone because shitty day, and knowing that, oh, shitty day, poor you, and like that just camaraderie and that connection is all real. So keep up, keep on keeping on, and keep gifting yourself, and like patting yourself on the back and rewarding yourself, because trying is hard work, and trying when most of the time it doesn't pay off is really hard work. Because right now everyone is not investing in new friendships, because life is pretty shit right now, and really hard work to do. So trying when it's not paying off is really hard work, but it will pay off. The more you nurture a ground to grow, the more will grow. So in this sort of fallow land, making your soil fertile again is a really great process to go on. And next year it'll blossom. You'll have the best field of blooms on the whole Instagram, because you'll have put that work in, and people will start being, oh, spring, summer, 2020 is behind us, start to get, you know, our you know, grip around this COVID, and they'll be like, oh, shy baby girl, you've just fucking always been there, like, thanks, like, let's be, let's whatever. And it will pay off. You just got to let it, you just got to keep believing in that soil and nurturing it to grow.
Fertilizer.
Yeah, plenty of fertilizer. Eat lots, poo lots.
A for apple, so I second that emotion. Little things aren't always so little in your heart.
Yeah.
And so these little gestures are so meaningful in this odd time. Yeah.
Any other like questions or input from the?
I think so. No. Okay. Shy baby girl says thanks so much.
My absolute pleasure as always. Always stay in touch. I will always be on the end of a DM. I know that you're friends with a few people that I'm friends with, and I know that I can vouch for them, although I won't say it out loud because I wouldn't like do that between your friendship. Yeah, but I know that we've got a few friends in common, and they're good friends. You know, like most of us has never met each other yet, but the genuineness and the love and the care that's sort of being built is so authentic. So keep investing; it's worth it. It took me like nearly 2 years. I might just plugged away, and there was a lot of insecurity because I'm a weirdo, and even though like you'd expect the kink community and like survivor community to all be like, yeah, weirdo, come on in, because I always sort of have this imagination that we're all weirdo and proud, but like it's not like that. It's not like that at all. So you get someone like thinking that you're gonna fit in and to sort of not again is really difficult. So that insecurity is real, but you've got to keep reminding yourself who you are and your genuineness and what you're trying to build and what you're trying to do, and keep turning up to that and boundarying what other people will try and make it, what they'll try and say about it, what they'll try and do with it. If it's not the genuineness of your thing, flick it away and try and, or boundary it, and try and turn away and back to you know, focusing on what you find genuine and passionate and real. So the last topic that was offered to us by a lovely person, I won't say their name just in case, but this person's really lovely. They're I shouldn't say, but they're another really good person to rely on for friendship. They said 18 plus age regression on Insta. What's my thoughts? I think it was. So age regression is slightly different from, or it would be sort of subcategorized, I suppose, because it would be more aimed at therapy. And it's about going on a process to identify a wound that needs soothing, or a condition of worth that needs locating, or a structure of self that needs configurating, or a dysregulated nervous system that needs regulating, or a structure of self so that your head can become part of your body and you can reattach your nervous system. Like lots of different things age regression therapy can help with. And you like, I'm going to be careful with my words, because you do need to be qualified. But you don't have to have gone and got a degree. You just have to have done a lot of study, a lot of contracting, and a lot of knowledge on what it is you're working on, how the other can help with that. And if you haven't got communication skills, or you've got something blocking your ability to be social in a way that can contract, or I mean, this is 18 plus, so you're in your beginnings of adulthood, prefrontal cortex, so there are skills there to contract, but you haven't got all the skills. And if you have personality or conditions that get in the way, a personality disorder, emotional or personality disorders, or conditions like ASD that get in the way of your ability to have your words, then contracting that space, I think, would be unsafe. You need at least one person that is qualified enough, so has studied heavily, and like has some like they're like, they might be a social worker, or they've got some study in them that knows psychology or the way to look after it, and then has studied specifically age regression, and then specifically maybe for months contracted what a scenario scene, an age regression therapy session would look like, what would work on, and it takes a long time. So I don't recommend it, because, well, unless you're going to do all of that. Like, I do recommend it. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But you really have to commit and be in a solid relationship that is super caring, that wants to do that work, that doesn't rush it, that understands it fully before they ever take a toe step in, and then does it real super gentle, because you're going into psychology now. And even in BDSM, because a lot of BDSM is sort of attaching brain to body or detaching brain from body, or getting back into body from brain, or submitting from the adulting and all those super high functioning cultures and society expectations and roles, and can be a real therapeutic process for trauma or healing or just expressing self or nervous system regulation, or like loads of different things. So if you can contract that space, you could probably contract this space, but you've probably done a lot of reading on the BDSM space. So like honor it just as much, if not more, because working with your adult self is different from working with your child self. And you've got to be real kind, thoughtful, empathic, delicate and gentle with your child part, and you've got to really understand what you're doing and precious with it, because child part is your subconscious body, your human rights, your amygdala, your wound, your archaic self, your structures of self in your childhood, your play, your fantasy, your sex. People think that sounds weird, but sex is child part, it's body, it's subconscious, it's get away from your role life and into your body life and what feels good. So it's child part. And a lot of people who have a problem with their child part because they've had a childhood that is just not good enough in some way, they have struggles with their sex, with their rest, with their eating, with their rights, with their voice, with their going to the toilet, with everything, because being a body is difficult when you've always not. So child part work is insanely, profoundly important and precious, but like also super delicate. Don't just wade in there, please. You could get it real wrong, and like plan for getting it wrong. That's part of the contracting. Think of all the ways it could go wrong and talk about them. What would we do if this happened? I'm a little bit worried about this. Can we talk about it? Well, what if I do that and something happens? And like go through all the crazy stuff so that you can get to the point where like you feel like, right, I feel like I kind of know what I would do in any kind of situation. Let's give it a little go. And then give it a little go. And after giving it a little go and flowing along, because you have to be on a continual loop of consent with either your body's consent or your verbal consent that says, oh, I feel different, or something's changed, or I'm triggered, or whatever. But then afterwards, you then go through a real debrief, and it might not be straight afterwards. It might be the day after, depending on what kind of people you are. Sometimes you need to sleep on it. Sometimes you're if you go to bed before you've talked about it, oh my God, I'll be awake all night. So it just depends on who you are. But you always make the safe thing. And if you're the opposites, one needs to sleep on it, one needs to talk about it before they go to bed. You let the one that needs to talk about it before go to bed, understanding that the one that needs to sleep on it will listen, and then they will respond in the morning after breakfast, so that both get what they need. But you debrief, and that allows you to then learn from the situation, protect it, gift it its growth, invest in its evolution of the space, contracting, all those functions of self. So age regression on Instagram, like I don't have a problem with it at all. Like I feel like I don't know why everyone has to be a bit like beefy about it. There's beef all over the place. Like everyone's a bit stressed and or getting into little tussles about things and not cross tagging and I totally get that. Sex workers have a right to protect their workspace, and that doesn't include minors. Absolutely. But there's a whole load of other things that should and could include minors, because minors are the people who are in puberty, and that includes fantasy and kink and process of self and becoming self and the practice of being with other and the the needing to experience their workings out of their prefrontal cortex and how they feel about things, irrelevant of your ideal. And so to exclude them from their own actual zone, like, it's theirs, puberty is theirs, we can't steal it from them. We have to make it a safe space for everyone, and we have to protect spaces where minors shouldn't be included for the safety of the workers. They have the right to make money and keep that space safe. And I expect if it wasn't for all the judgment and then the penalization from the Instagram, like the lead, I can't think of the word, but like the leaders, the people who are like shutting down sites so that they can't earn the money, they wouldn't care that, you know, people are asking questions, or they're just interested, or they're like, oh, what's this, or they want to, that they have a feeling, they have like this kink that they've never been able to talk about it with anyone. They wouldn't care, but it's because they're getting penalized. So there's all this beef, and it's not really even their beef. They're just getting frustrated that like this higher figure is making it like you can't win, you know. And no one wants to exclude anyone from safety and knowledge and support and understanding, and that's especially minors in puberty. I feel like they are drowning in the who am I, what am I, what is this, how does it relate to me, like all of that is getting switched on. And also online, like they're the first generation to be born online, so they're flooded with information that we're now extricating them from, or like excluding them from, when actually it is theirs. The birthplace is puberty. So I don't know, I feel like a bit bad for them. Like they've got to belong somewhere, and they've got to find that information somewhere, and they've got to be allowed to like express themselves and their weirdo and proudness as well. Otherwise they'll get trapped into being an adult, and this kind of adult, and that kind of woman, and this kind of whatever. And I don't know, safety, communication, and then rights to workspaces. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like blabbering on now. I don't even know whether I'm answering a specific question, but oh yeah, 18 plus age regression on Insta. I don't know if I've answered your question, honey, but if I haven't, just DM me and like direct me.
And say what?
Yeah, what the fuck was she talking about?
Say what was all that?
Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent, but yeah, like, everyone needs to find their place, and that's not so that they can go on and start you know, getting into trouble or getting other people into trouble.
People on Instagram using that kind of imagery as something else?
Oh god, you know, there is lots of different, it's like on Twitter, it's like on YouTube,
like just tons of porn on it, isn't there?
And there's a lot of different agendas with it, you know. Some people are just there to you know, to sort of just perpetrate it. I got a dick pic the other day, like just like from nowhere. Like I haven't even communicated with this person. I just follow back. That's all I do. I follow back. If you follow me, I'm going to be polite. I'm going to follow you back. And then like fucking dick pic, gross dick pic.
Can you report them?
I just blocked it, so I don't know whether I can go back and report. And I didn't know how to report. I just like, oh, what do I do? And I just blocked it.
These people, it shouldn't be so able to just be so anonymous that you can just create a fake profile and just be it.
That would be the thing that would really make the internet safe. You should have
to have like,
is that you are you on the internet.
You have to have like an internet profile on whatever site you went on. You use the same one.
Yeah,
and it was traced back.
Yeah. Have I had my evening tablets? Because I'm in absolute agony. No, I haven't. Baby, would you get me tablets?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So we're coming. Oh, we've got a little bit left. So if anyone, look at all these words. Oh, we've read those, yeah. So has anyone got anything else they would like to chat on today? Or rewind backwards.
Otherwise, we can nick off early for Christmas.
Yeah. Do you want to nick off early? I don't know. Anyone got anything else they want to talk about? Anyone want to go back to a previous subject that I didn't quite hit on for you? Anyone want to offer a new subject, or do we all feel like tablets. Yeah? Thank you, baby. Or do we all feel like that's enough of that? Do you love my t-shirt? I got it from the charity shop today. I've been a good girl this year. It's got Minnie Mouse on it. I love it. I bought it for our godchild because I just didn't dream it would fit me, because I won't even say what age it is. But it did, and I'm delighted. So, yay.
Should you keep it?
Yeah. Oh. I'll keep it for this year. I think it would be too big for her this year. Yeah. So I'll keep it until...
well, snooze, you lose, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah. What it is, okay, is I never used to. I would sacrifice in a heartbeat. It was my standard procedure. Like, I'm not a full person. I'm not as valid as you. But having a child part and like committing to working with a child part and being like, well, I'm not going to do this work and then give my child part a second shitty childhood on my watch. Kind of like, it's like, well, if you like it, darling, then keep it. Whereas before I'd be like, stupid woman, hand it over. So there was a little bit more like, I'm a person, I have needs. I didn't have a really good childhood, and I'm allowed to like express those feelings and have some celebration of that now, and like gifting my rights to have this absolutely ridiculous thing that, you know, people can judge and feel like, what? But being allowed to have that because, wow, it makes sense to my body, and it makes sense to our relationship and our love and how we treat each other, and it's just a gifted space for us that, I don't know, it makes it much easier for me to remain a person because we have this now. And anytime that I'm stressed, Papa, like, because when I get stressed, I get so depersonalized. Like, not even I'm outside my body. I'm not even in this universe. And it, like, he'll have to like tap me, and I'm like, I'm deep in this. And I'm like, well, I won't even tell you the things I'm doing because it's just horrendous stuff, like day nightmare type things, all sorts of scenarios. And I'm so teleported away in this like traumatic PTSD thing, talking with God in a bad way.
Mm-hmm. I've gotten so.
And then he'll drag me back with this thing, with this child part, and they're like, oh, hiya, hello, and I'm back again, and my body can start soothing its nervous system again. Sorry. Yeah.
So my corruptor's got the topic, so yeah, you can send it over. And Space Princess said, what are your thoughts on someone who regresses but can be sexual in that space because it makes them feel more comfortable?
But can be, did it say?
They can be sexual in that space because it makes them feel more comfortable.
Yeah. So with this, and I find a lot of littles explain it this way, and if it's not this way, because it can be two ways. It can either be a kink, and it's like I have a sexual arousal space to being little, and gifting it that right because you're all consenting adults, and it is a kink, and all kinks are just a little bit weirdo and proud, and this is my one, and just gifting yourself that right, looking at what might impede it or stigmatize it, actively having the fears and talking about them, because if you don't, it can end up with certain questions coming in, and you could have a bout of what's called paedophilic obsessive compulsive disorder, where you start, oh, does this mean it's this, or does this mean I'm that, or oh my god, is this the start of something else? And you can start a wormhole and get into an idea of self that's nothing to do with you. It's just an obsessive compulsive disorder that is around this thought because you have this kink. So do that work. And also, if you have that sexual kink and you have childhood or infantile sexual abuse, really work on the contract, really work on the child part, because you don't want to stigmatize, traumatize, shame cycle, trigger, relive old wounds from a part that you haven't contracted with, that you're then having to make relive. So I would be really, and it depends on what disorder you have. So if you have like, if your little is an actual dissociative part, then the little would have to come forward and say, I want to do this. Not the adult part of self thinking, I feel a bit like that. And then all of a sudden we get to little space and actually the little hasn't contracted that at all. And now you've triggered me and I'm in a really bad space because of that. So there's all sorts of things that can go wrong with that. So like, really be thoughtful about what yours looks like, what it needs to be, and what things could interweave and create a difficulty. If it is what most littles explain to me, and what mine is where little space and little space with partner gets you so just regressed, comfortable, feeling yourself, just like really so in love, just really intimate, just like, oh, I love each other, that you're so relaxed that it naturally leads to, oh, I'm really feeling you and I'm really in love with you and I want this. And sometimes it will move away from little space and become grown-up space because that has created that portal towards sexuality. Or it will be in little space and then it will sort of hold there and be around that sort of zone of autopedophilia where actually I am in little space and that's where the arousal is, and can we stay in this space? So depending on what I need a bit more of that. I'm leaning, but this is my my fidget spinner necklace, and like it's really cool to like take your mind and do the left right thinking, and like I do all these things with it. It's just really cool. But Papa also likes it, and sometimes he like I don't know, I find myself like going down with it. What was I saying about little space, sexuality? Sorry, it's my back. Those tablets will kick in soon. So if it's you sometimes go there, again, you need to be really thoughtful with the contracting. Something along the lines of, unless I'm coming and instigating it within little space, you do not instigate it, because that has to be contracted by my little space in the moment, and 9 times out of 10 it will not happen. And then the partner can understand, okay, I totally get that, thanks very much for letting me know, and they can stay safe in it, and they can keep you safer in it, and then you can be freer in it. Also, that needs the communication that the other person feels comfortable enough to play in that space. And again, that will need contracting, because again, it's a gradual process for both people to become comfortable with themselves and each other, and how it makes them feel. And everyone is bombarded with stigma and discrimination and societal propaganda that could get in the way of this space, or stigmatize it, or discriminate against it. So you can, even when you think you feel like great in it, you can suddenly plummet because one person made you feel like this, and then it just, the whole bottom of your world fell out. So again, be really thoughtful about both people in the scenario and their fears and worries, and then describe what it is for you, and make a protocol for it, so that it can be navigated, and then you can start being freer with it. And so like I have things like, because we always talk about what we've been thinking about, it's a really great way of sharing your fantasy. And we're quite often gift each other orgasms, so it's not regularly at the same time in coitus, it's quite often a gifting thing. So we will be thinking and like prioritizing the other, and then like, what did you think about, how was your orgasm, debriefing. And when it happens that, for my brain, my autopedophilia started with, and from like very young age, like puberty, with flashbacking. And like every time I was intimate or touched, or like touched myself, which I didn't at all because of this thing, I would get flashbacks of my childhood trauma and sexual abuse. And it was so oh God, it was so attacking, and it felt so painful that it put me off my body, sex, orgasm, any of that stuff. And then I met my husband, Papa, and got safe. And I because I'm like a feminist, I was never gonna fake an orgasm, and I didn't want that kind of relationship. And thankfully either did he, and we learned each other's bodies, and I learned to become safe. And when I say I can't talk about it, he understands I haven't been able to override this thing, and I don't want to make that my talked fantasy. But what I have found since we've had this caregiver little is that happens very, very rarely now, because what's in place of it is Papa Dolly, is me and my husband in this caregiver little situation, and it's just me and him. And even though it's doing these things, it's not doing that anymore, which was such conflict with my body, and could actually be in conflict of my arousal or orgasm, because it would start feeling fearful, it would start being amygdala reaction, it would start being disgust reflex, all these other anxiety, just not conducive to good feelings would happen, and it would get in the way of my orgasm, and then I'd get frustrated, and all of those other things. So it's really smoothed the way out to my orgasm, because I don't have to go through the terror of it. I have this space now that makes sense of it in a well-being place. And even though we don't visit in that way sexually, I can feel better in what happens to me in my brain because of this dynamic. So it has healed some of that shame cycle, some of that projected rape culture that would say I'm dirty, I'm bad, I'm something or other, I'm something waiting to happen, all of those stigmatic things that you can do to yourself because of how your brain evolved from trauma. That can block all sorts of things, including your right to pleasure, let alone your right to fantasize. And you've got to just keep reminding yourself that all the people in my head aren't real. So it doesn't matter what they're doing, no one's getting hurt unless I get in conflict with it, and then I beat myself up, in which case I do get very hurt. So sort of smoothing out that line. And quite often, especially with POCD, and when you get on the edge, when you're autopedophilic and you don't understand it and you think, oh God, what is this? Just understanding that minor attraction, pedophilia, hebephilia, necrophilia, ephebophilia, all of those minor attractions, they occur almost standardly from puberty. You get to your teenage puberty and you realize, oh, I'm attracted to those, and I shouldn't be. And then you start an internalization of it that is longevity. It stays. You have the realization, you have the second realization, you scoop it all up, and then you hide it. Okay? And that is a real specific thing. I'm attracted to minors or children or babies. And if you haven't had that happen, then that's not what's happening. You have several other conditions that are nothing to do with that, have nothing to do with it. They've got a similar word in the title because it's an internal structure that can use that word. It's all to do with Latin, I don't know, the way that they structure the name of something. So it's unfortunate that it's got the same terminology, because then people can get disgust reflex on it, and then that can create a different condition, POCD. And anyone with obsessive compulsive disorder, anyone with autism or intrusive thinking or personality or mood disorder, anyone who has survivor conditions, anyone with autopedophilia, anyone with a kink with abdl or some kind of kink where they think, oh, what is this, could lead on to the fear that it's this, and then the obsessive compulsive disorder that is it, search for it, is it, research, is it, internalize, and because they never find the answer because it isn't it's like a borehole drilling deeper and deeper into your soul because you don't find the answer, which is, oh yes it is, and you don't find the answer which is, no it isn't, because I don't know what this is. And once you actually go to someone that says, oh well, this is what that is, and you go, oh well, I've never felt that, no, that's not me. And then you say, well, there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this other thing that can happen because of that, and they, oh, that's exactly what it is. And then they get the understanding of self. So that cycle of reducing down into POC, a bout of POCD that can cause suicidality or actual taking one's life, because you can get in such fear of self, and also so stigmatized by society that you can't take it anywhere, this internal fear. And if you've got structures of self that also make it harder to communicate, to belong, to find a counselor, to have someone to talk to, then you could get real lonely, really disordered thought thinking, and then think there's only one way out, and that is to kill myself. And so I think a lot of young men can get about as something where their only answer, they think, is to end their life, and actually creating a safe space where people can talk about these things. Even minor attraction, there's a whole movement of, they're called NOMAPs, non-offending minor attracted person, where they're trying to make safety, education, therapeutic process, boundaries, like a community where people can help each other. And it's really working. And like teenagers are finding that space to come to terms with themselves. And actually, a lot of people that come through my charity thinking that they're a paedophile, and then when they go through the actual knowledge of self, when I've said, well, is it this? Well, then it's not that. Is it this? Oh, that. Well, then that's this. Oh, well, then it is that. And that the actual release and relief and the realization just frees them into looking after something. And even if it is minor attraction, there's a lot of ways to look after it that doesn't end in perpetration. And prevention needs empathy. It requires empathy to prevent things. So we have to sort of get into that dialogue where all teenagers, no matter what they're born with, are given a safe space to work out how best to live with that. And thankfully there is there's not many of us, but there are a few people that will qualify and try and do some of that work. But we get so thoroughly attacked that it's a hard corner of the work to be in. It can grind you down, but I'm passionate about it. I'm not the last victim, and I believe in getting at the top of the slide rather than the bottom, catching victims. I want to get at the top and creating a different pathway. Don't go down there, come over here and actually make difference. We'll see. So
I've got a few more messages to read.
Yeah.
So Mycoraptor said, society has taught us for so long that sex is something to be ashamed of, and we're learning as a society to be more accepting of our sexual sides. Robert Mack said, hello Faye, love the way you help others analyse past memories and PTSD and help some lock those monsters away so we can move forwards.
Or live with those monsters, because actually they're probably misunderstood little bears. Like they're demonized and villainized, and we shoot the messenger when actually they're just your body trying to say to you, I was really scared and you didn't care about that, or I was really hurt and I didn't get justice, or I didn't get acknowledged, or you didn't make a boundary, you know.
Shy Baby Girl says you do amazing work. Space Princess said, thank you so much. A for Apple says, I had trouble with shame and intrusive thoughts around my little side 8 years ago. It's since gone, but it was scary.
You have to validate the right to a child part, because every adult has one. And if they have been entitled enough to have a childhood and have a configured adulthood that allows them to remain a body and have rest and have play and have rights to all the things they need, well, bravo them. But if just because you did doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to try and recover that part of me that didn't, and configure them into a way that makes sense to my life and the way that my body responds to things. And I'm glad you were able to, you know, have a wonderful childhood and become an adult that's configured with your rights as a child part, but I didn't, and that doesn't delegitimize my right to have it my way and with my needs, or your needs. Yeah. One's needs.
Yeah, we're just coming up on our time now.
Well done, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, everyone, and being really brave and like just giving us your topics and let me chunter on for bloody ages and lose my I didn't do too much of losing my train today, so that's better. Yeah, sometimes when I watch it back, I'll like do a note of every time I've lost my train of thought, and it's like sometimes it's loads and I've like left something hanging that I thought, oh, that would have been really interesting if I finished that fucking thought, but never mind. I am what I am, dyslexic, PTSD, chronic pain, Saturday evening. We come as we are, and it's all celebrated. Okay, so we're going to say bye-bye for now. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Keep in touch. Have the greatest festive season, whatever that means to you, and take rest, take recovery, create a nest, and really make this time yours and what you need. And join us at the next one every third Saturday of the month, 7 p.m. GMT UK time, and send me DMs or whatever if you have any topics or anything you want unpacking. And you can send me real detail of something. I'll always anonymize it so that we can put it in a broad spectrum so no one can identify anyone. And we'll just keep it going. So thank you so much. Well done, all of you.
Shy baby girl says you're amazing. Don't be hard on yourself. I say that all the time. Don't be hard on yourself.
Don't be hard on yourself, girl.
And Robert Max's Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Bye-bye for now. Much love. And thank you, Papa.
You're welcome.
And sorry I said shush at one point.
Stop it.
I know, it's because...
Get in your box.
It's because...
I'm going to pay for this. I know when that camera stops.
Every time
I'm going to get a
you said the word Maeve. Yeah, you're going to go in the dungeon now. Yeah, no. Every time you said the word Maeve, I forgot what I was saying. And it was like... if you need help, next time wear yellow. Anyway, right. So thank you, darling.
You're welcome. You'll see me on the back of a milk carton before long.
Never. Never.
Okay, I'm only joking. All right then. Yeah. Let's go.
Okay. Love you. Bye. Bye.